those are the compliments we'll get out of the way.
I knew what you meant, you fucking ding-dong.
Simpsons sing the blues.
Nobody knows what not a punchline is more than you, Jeff.
Means anybody from Chappelle to Jeff Klein.
Ah, it was such a bummer, dude.
To dance for you when you want us to friggin' dance.
Is it 'cause you think I'm athletic?
End the show. Hi, I'm Jeff Klein.
I guess that means that I'm Steve Miller.
That would mean that, yes.
Yeah,
And
so
together, we're straight to gay.
straight to gay.
Sure.
So this is the beautiful part of a brand new podcast, right? Just that awkward introduction, the clumsy starting blocks, like just a fucking mess. Yeah, beautiful, seamless. So yeah, I'm Steve Miller. That's Jeff Klein. This is the Straight to Gay podcast. And eventually,
people are still tuned in after
that. And eventually, we'll have some sort of formal introduction, and we'll have a different format. But we decided to kick this podcast off by doing a review of all of the recently released RuPaul Drag Queen stand-up comedy specials. We started last week with Darian Lake. This week, we're moving into Peppermint. But before we get into the review, Jeff, it's been a week. It's been a full 7 days. What have you done?
Yes. I've done the things. I went to Savannah. I went to Savannah this past week. And by Savannah, I mean Hilton Head. My boyfriend took me to Hilton Head. He told me we were going to Savannah, and then he lied as we drove past it. So we spent the week in Hilton Head. We drove into Savannah for a Janet Jackson concert. And
so you're now a part of the Rhythm Nation?
Obviously. I mentioned that in the latest Beer with a Queer episode. Thank you. Comes out on Tuesday. And then, what was that? Friday night, and then Saturday night, I got to do a show at the Wormhole in Savannah, which is a legendary bar, kind of dive-ish bar. Super low ceilings, cool stage. They have like heavy metal concerts and comedy shows there. And you walk in and there's just holes punched in the bathroom, and it feels completely accurate. Yeah.
Are those holes from metal fans or frustrated comics?
It's a very good question, and both could be true. I don't know. But either way, it felt right. Their claim to fame in comedy is the fact that, holy shit, my comic friends are going to hate me because I'm going to get the name wrong. But you know Sam... I want to say the last name's Talent, and that's right? It's Sam.
Yeah,
Talent,
there's Sam Talent. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's great. He shot his special there.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, that's great.
And then they have drop-ins like Dave Chappelle's dropped in and done comedy there when he was in town. So, and you don't need to ask them about that. They'll tell you. They're very proud of that. So it's cool. It's kind of that. It's been around for decades. And it has that kind of anybody could drop in vibe. And that means anybody from Chappelle to Jeff Klein. So
wow.
Literally
really just
going
to put your name right next to his, huh? Going to put your name right next to his.
Well, I mean, technically I put his before mine. I mean, in the billing, he did perform first.
Wow.
Wow. That's math.
The narcissism.
Don't be mad at
me.
Narcissism.
The narcissism's astounding. Truly.
What'd you do this past week?
First
you had
of
some
all,
shows with friends of ours.
I did. But first of all, I want to circle back to your weekend just briefly, because I've never heard somebody complain about being taken on a vacation before, and I don't know if I appreciate it, because I didn't get to go anywhere. And you said, my boyfriend told me he was going to take me to Savannah, and that dickhead drove right by Savannah and took me to Hilton Head instead. So, really, Matt, come on. You can do better than Jeff, Matt. I think we all know that. You can certainly find somebody that's more appreciative. You can find somebody more appreciative. But yeah, so I stayed in the Tampa area, had a bunch of shows that are really great. First off, the Edition Hotel in downtown Tampa with Jeff. You got to do this room, man. It's unbelievable. It's Tampa's only 5-star hotel. It is way nicer than comedians deserve to perform in. It is beautiful, and I'm going to put a video clip right here of what that room looks like. It's all red. The ceiling is covered. Every inch of it's covered with red disco balls. It's glorious, and the crowd is super into it. It's a small, by design, it's a small room. It's supposed to be an intimate show. So I think there's only around 40 or so people there, but the room probably only sits about 50. So it's designed to be small, but everybody was super into it. So that was great. It's Saturday
What jokes
night.
did you do of yours that fit there? Also, that's where Taylor Swift stayed while she was doing her concerts here in Florida.
Well, that's, you compare yourself to Chappelle. I was going to underplay myself. I don't like to brag about the fact that I'm an in house performer at the hotel that Taylor Swift stayed at, but that is the reality of the situation. What jokes did I do there, Jeff? My material is universal, my friend. I can perform anywhere. So I know we're going to talk about Peppermint Special. We're going to get into it. But
Yeah.
first things first,
Yes.
we have a new reigning queen.
Yes. Yes, we do. And in least shocking news, Sasha Colby, everybody. I mean, in least shocking news, when she came out and did Goddess, she shut it down. That was the winning performance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was over. I think it was over before that performance, but if you're just looking at the finale, in its own right, then she won at that moment. I agree with you.
Yeah, 100. Because honestly, in my opinion, I think Anitra beat her in the one-on-one. I think Anitra edged her out. But if you're crowning for the whole season, you're crowning Sasha Colby. I don't think there's a question about you're crowning Sasha.
Absolutely. And I do think you have to look at the whole season. I don't think it's okay just to look at the final lip sync. And I agree with you, by the way. I think Anitra had a slightly better performance. And the first time I watched it, I was disappointed by Sasha's reveal, right? Because she steps out on stage, she's got this beautiful, gorgeous coat on, and it's like, well, obviously, there's going to be a reveal.
There's going to be a reveal. There's going to be a reveal.
And I sort of hate when the reveal's coming. So when the song started off and she dropped the jacket, I was like, oh, that's, why even put the jacket on? Because what she was wearing underneath it was beautiful anyways. But then rewatching it, the way that she played with the jacket on stage and incorporated it into her act, I was like, all right, I was wrong. It made sense. Watching it back, it made sense why she wore the coat.
Did you see the news about what she wanted to wear?
No.
So apparently Sasha Colby wanted to be as naked as possible in the final performance. She wanted to be naked because she wanted to celebrate trans beauty and trans bodies.
I love that.
So she wanted to be.
Listen,
it's true, and I know a fair amount. I have a fair amount of trans friends, and if they had bodies like Sasha, I would tell them they should celebrate too. But they don't, and they should keep it covered up.
Wow,
like most humans should.
So you are in favor of burqas for some people, Jeff? Is that what I'm hearing? That's hurtful. All bodies are beautiful, my friend.
For some people.
I won't have you put me in a burqa.
Not for women, for ugly people.
What do I feel like you're looking
ugly
at me?
Men also.
Wow, you're really whittling it down further and further.
And real quick, I just want to throw out there, I've been a big hater on Lux Noir London from the beginning because of her attitude and because of her attitude. And I get that's awkward for me to not like somebody because of an attitude. I'm aware of the hypocrisy.
The difference between you and her, she has the talent to back it up, but go ahead.
How dare you? I have uniqueness and charisma. I don't know.
You have nerve. You have nerve. You have some nerve.
I got something. But I will say this. I don't think there's a better student of Drag Race than Lux Noir London. But that was also to a detriment because everything was so referential to the point that her watching the finale and her reaction with all the other queens, she was wearing what Alaska was wearing when she watched the finale.
Yeah. So that brings us to the reason we're here. That brings us to one of the all-time great queens in the history of RuPaul's Drag Race, Peppermint, and her comedy special, So-Sigh-Ety Effects.
Peppermint is an amazing performer, dancer.
Absolutely.
And those are the compliments we'll get out of the way before we get into her special.
Yeah, so this is my initial reaction to it, right? So as somebody that's been a performer, I've been doing stand-up for about 14 years now. I feel a lot of empathy for queens in some of the later seasons of Drag Race when they run into these queens that are hugely popular on social media but have never hosted a show, have never done live shows or have done very minimal shows,
Right.
and you'll see it not in every queen, but you'll see it many times where they're like, you feel like they haven't paid their dues, or you feel like they're quote not real queens because they're just social media queens, which I've come to understand is an unfair assessment. Like you look at Sugar and Spice, who are TikTok famous, and they were great. They could have gone much further than they did. But that aside, I feel that deeply as a comedian, and as a comedian that is terrible at social media, because I watch people go blowing right past because they've done the work to build their own audience. And there have been moments in my career, and I've talked to other comics that are like, that person doesn't deserve to be there because they haven't paid their dues. So I have a lot of empathy when queens have that moment. It doesn't happen as much now because we've come to respect that a little bit more than we have in the past. That being said,
You're
that's
landing
how
this
I
thought at some
felt.
point, right?
Yes, that's how I felt watching Peppermint's special. I'm like, it's not fair that you got a special. It's not fair that you
Oh,
got a stand-up special. You only got the stand-up special because you have a giant audience and respect. You built that audience. You earned that audience. But just like Darian Lakes, I love Peppermint. She's an amazing performer, but this is another example of somebody not ready to do an hour of comedy.
well, and here's what I found interesting about it, and just to touch on the initial things and kind of I'll summarize, then we'll go into the details. Um, I thought, especially because she's not a stand-up comic, and I think that becomes very obvious very
Very
early
quickly.
on it.
Yes, by the fact that she
But
didn't open with jokes. That was a way. That was a giveaway.
or have any in there.
Yeah,
But she also seemed less stressed than Darian
yep,
did because she's not
absolutely.
known to be funny. So I think she felt like she had less to lose, which I think helped her stay loose. And you could feel the looseness on stage, which was better in that sense. But I also noticed immediately it's the same exact stage,
Yep.
just dressed up differently, which means this was just a stage in New York. We're putting people in and
Six
we're
nights in a
churning
row.
through.
6 nights in a row.
Yep.
Special, special,
And
special, special, special.
I absolutely thought the fact I was like, oh, if I had this crowd on that stage, I'd love the opportunity to murder that show. Are you kidding me? And I'm like, you guys are leaving so many crumbs on the like, what are you doing?
Crumbs. They left whole
So
meals. What are you talking about?
yeah, it
There's
was
not
just
crumbs
cake
down there.
on
There's a
stage.
Thanksgiving feast on the ground. And I agree with everything you said. Pepper was way more comfortable on stage. And the crowd was definitely with her more than I think they were with Darian. Um, that being said, Darian, I think, took more swings and took bigger chances and
Yes.
tried to do more. And Peppermint was just like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give them me. I'm going to give them my personality and I'm going to talk the way that I do. I'm going to entertain the way that I do. And it's entertaining, but it's not stand up.
So you referenced it earlier. She started off by singing. She didn't start off by telling jokes. So literally, my note goes singing to start. Cute. She had her own original song. It was witty. Got it.
Yep.
And then I
Had
wrote,
moments, had
and
legitimately funny moments in there.
and then this goes on a little bit long because I was like, is she still singing the song? Because we're
Yeah.
2.5 minutes, 3 minutes into the special now, and we're still singing the song. Like we got it. We got it. Let's move on.
Yeah. The funny parts of the song were very funny, but there was a lot of other stuff in that song besides the funny parts. And she sounded great. She looked great, but it just, it was a ballsy move to start a stand-up show with a song, and it didn't hit it for me.
It was too long for me. I thought it was fine to start, but you're 90 seconds before you lose my interest on this song. Get through it.
I thought she looked great. Same as Darian.
Oh, she
She
looked
looked
amazing.
phenomenal. I love what she's wearing. I love the hair. I love all
Yeah,
of it. Uh,
I love that I could see her eyes.
yeah.
I will.
Yeah, do you love that she wasn't wearing as much makeup? Because I know you had a problem with you had a problem with the
Did
drag
you
queen wearing
go
too
back
much makeup.
and look at Darian's eyes though? Because you can't. Because it's caked on mascara on there. I don't want to keep bashing her because we'll do that when All Stars starts. I do want.
Ah,
That's rude. I do want to. This is
that's you.
actual a legit complaint, societal complaint. I'll complain about, which is apropos because that is what Peppermint's special was really about. Societal complaints, which were all very interesting and valid, but
Yep.
she used the term, and I think it was in the song, she used the term clean. Do you remember this joke? She
Yes.
said they don't want to get their status, but they ask if she's clean. That is such a pet peeve to me because I find that term to be so demeaning, whether people mean it to be or not. And it's used way too much in the gay community. I don't think it's used much in the straight community at all in referencing HIV positive or negative people. But it became a commonplace term where people just are like, if you're not HIV positive, you're clean. But the problem with that is obviously
The
that
flip side
there's
of it
an
is
other side to that coin.
right.
And that's not fair to anybody who's HIV positive or not to be calling them dirty. It's in today's society and everything that we watch what we say and we change how we talk. I think that word, in my opinion, in the community, we can get rid of it. We can get rid of it a long time ago. I don't like the usage of it. I feel it brings shame to something people shouldn't have as much shame about anymore because of all the ways that things do happen. So anyway, the fact that she used it, I don't blame her for using it because I don't know, it's used so commonly. But it's a pet peeve of mine when I hear it. So
I get that. I've never thought about that before. That's the privilege of being a straight guy. But that makes sense. It does, because the flip side of the coin, right, is
yeah,
dirty.
is you're calling
It's
other
like
people dirty? Yeah,
It's like when I talk to, I've had conversations with people, obviously heterosexual guys, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's like a normal wedding," where they're talking like, and I'm like, "Well, don't say normal." They're like, "Why?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Because then you're saying that a homosexual relationship is abnormal, right? Like, don't just say heterosexual or homosexual, or same sex,
and that's
like I don't,
yeah.
I don't like normal. Like, so I get it where you're coming from, and I was of course wanted to jump on you and be a shithead because that's the relationship that we have. But I have to respect the fact. I have to respect the fact that bothers you. I never thought about it like that. I appreciate you bringing it up, and I have similar feelings about certain words. So, God damn it,
Yeah.
Jeff, you taught me something, and I did not want to get into you teaching me shit.
Yes,
That's not what this is about. That's not what this is supposed to be
one
about.
day in a row.
I loved the structure of her special. She starts off with
Sure.
a love song, a twisted and funny love song, twisted in the best possible sense, and then the rest of it really dealt with the challenges of dating as a queer trans woman in this society. And that was so there was an overriding thesis, which I love in a special. I love when something has, this is what I'm going to talk about, and she set it up beautifully. This is my message. This is what we're going to discuss. And then she took you through that path. The only thing that she didn't do in that structure was write punchlines.
That's all I could think was one of the most famous quotes, and we'll quote it every time that we do these reviews, is in Peppermint's season, she had Trinity the Tuck Taylor, who famously said, "Where's the jokes? Where's the jokes?" And that's all I kept thinking. I was like, you were in the season with her. You heard her say this. So 8 minutes in, by the way, 8 minutes into the special, we've started to kind of talk to the crowd. No jokes yet. We're kind of talking. I paused it. I was like, where are we at in the special? We're 8 minutes in and we haven't told a joke yet?
I had 9:30. I had 9:30 written down as the first joke. And on the crowd work, I was very excited to watch her do crowd work because I think that she's such a great performer and super witty. But like, she asked a couple, where did you guys meet, online or in person? And then it didn't go anywhere. So it's like asking somebody, hey, what's your job? I'm a doctor. Okay, cool. What's your job? It's like, well, we're not going to talk about it. There's nothing beyond that. So I got excited for a second. I'm like, oh, awesome. I want to watch one of these queens do some crowd work. But then it didn't go anywhere. She just asked the question and moved off of it.
And then also, if any comics watch this or any people thinking about doing comedy watch this, and not that I would ever encourage crowd work because don't, but
fuck you. I love crowd work. I love doing crowd work. I love crowd work.
I wish the crowd loved you. If you ask a question,
they do,
to the crowd, you have to repeat the answer on stage.
Yes.
Because even though you heard the answer, the room didn't.
Yeah.
And so there was a couple times where somebody would answer her and she'd reply or she'd just keep, but we don't know what that person said. So you have to
Exactly.
be, it sounds silly to do when you do it, but you have to repeat it out loud. That's just, take that with you, people. If anybody's trying to do crowd work, that's a must.
And that is a great example of the issue that plagued Darian and Peppermint is just being young in comedy, just being green and not knowing this stuff. Because
Yeah.
I was watching Peppermint. I feel the same way about Darian. If they would do this for 10 years, which is just when you start getting good, if either of them would do this for 10 years, and honestly, maybe these queens would need less time than that because they have so much stage experience, but they would be beasts at stand-up comedy. They would be hysterical. But it's those little things like that, those missed opportunities, those things that they just don't know.
And it's the same thing that Darian went through, where I think there were funny things, but again, they're not structuring the joke right to put the punchline at the end. And the first example I have is she talks about dating while trans. She talks about dating, and when you're dating while trans, your boyfriend is the Babadook. Here's the thing. Had she described the boyfriend as all of the things first, that you only get taken out at night, you only, this, they don't want this, they
Right.
only do this. In fact, the boyfriend's the Babadook. If you use the Babadook as your punchline on that, it's way funnier because you've given all the
True.
descriptors and then you're giving it a name to it. But which I thought, and here's the thing though, that's funny. The idea is funny. And, dating while trans is really interesting. And then,
Yeah.
she was preaching about the society and the social influence that people have to deal with date. I thought that was really cute. She brought the name of the special into it early on. I liked
like
all
that.
of that.
I will. I
and
will.
then
I
what-
will. I was before. I will disagree with you a bit on the Babadook. I think that you could set it up that way as long as you have a strong enough punchline on the third one. So she followed the rules
Okay.
of three, which is one of those things that annoys me about comedy. But it is something that people do. She hits the third one, which is like, and they've been underneath all your girlfriend's beds, which that to me, like, but you wouldn't be underneath all your girlfriend's beds. You would be a serial killer.
Right.
You know what I mean? So she needed a stronger third thing. But what would have been, because she didn't have that strong punchline on the third, if she had done what you did, you wouldn't have needed it. It would have just been,
Yeah,
the
if
Babadook becomes a punchline.
they're all under your girlfriend's beds. Basically, they're the Babadook. Boom, that's punchline. People would have laughed.
And while we're talking about this, and you're talking about the idea of punchlines and the writing, and everything, I do want to point out that Kelly Howard was a co-writer, credited as a co-writer on this, and she is a super funny comic. She's based in Chicago. I haven't heard of her before, but when I watched the credits, I was like, oh, right on. She had a co-writer. So I looked it up and I watched a bunch of her stuff today. She's hysterical. She's super funny.
Well, and we know as comics, and we're both writers, we're both comics. We both, I think neither one of us can turn off our brain when you hear a friend's joke. If you feel a way that they're maybe leaving jokes on stage, laughs on stage, you offer, take it or not, here's my opinion on this, blah, blah, blah. I can't turn it off ever, which is annoying for my comic friends. But other times, comics have asked me to
and the
help
non-comics.
them write a... Well, true. Comics have asked me to write a joke for them. And as you know, you can write a great joke. But if the person delivering it doesn't get how structure should work, they change it up when they say it.
Yeah,
So-
it was not. It's not a criticism of Miss Howard or anything like that. It's just something
Just
just something to
acknowledging
reference.
we know that this can
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah,
So I did like, so then basically the rest of the special, or the next, we'll call it the second act of the special. I kind of broke it into 3 acts, and how I was watching it was different scenarios of guys she dated. And she had a through line through everything. She called herself the translator, where they would move from her onto not regular, but
she would
more,
she would transition them into
stable,
being better men later.
to stable relationships. Yes.
Yeah.
So I thought when she said, there was the guy, which was very, I have that there's hilarity and tragedy, but you need to punch it up, or else sometimes it comes across sad. So she was talking about the guy who vomited all over the apartment.
I did love that. I thought that was good.
When she said, Well, what I thought was really funny was when she did say, she goes, but he was cute, so I brought him a bucket. Like that's cute. Like you're
Bucket
finding
was
the
great.
funny in something
Yeah,
that is, yeah.
the bucket
Um,
reference was really good.
and then she did the vomit callback, which I thought was great. She had a couple callbacks in the special, which I thought was really smart and well done. Um, I will tell you, this audience was fully invested more than they should have been, in my opinion.
Oh, they were. Yeah, they
Like
loved her. They had a
way
great
too
time.
invested.
Yeah,
When she would say things, they'd be like, "Ooh, ah, ooh," and I was like,
they were
that's way
living.
too much. She's not giving you
They're
that much."
yeah, they were living for it. The one of the parts when you're talking about that run, like with the vomit and other stuff in there, one of the things I loathe in comedy is when people tell stories that just are not believable, that are not real. And
Right.
the bleach story got me that way. I was like, there's the premise I could believe it makes sense to me, but the idea that somebody is just scrubbing themselves with bleach in the shower is just, and maybe it happened. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe my naivete is ruining what is a true story. But I'm
It's
just
like
like,
you've never
nobody.
seen The Crying Game.
I actually never have seen The Crying Game.
Neither have I, but I'm pretty sure that happens in it. Well, and I think the ridiculousness of that was for the save me some bleach. I have some vomit to clean up still.
Yes,
That to
that
me,
that was
you
great.
know,
That was
it
great.
was that's smart and that was well done. I actually felt bad because in the next joke, she's telling this story about Tim, one of the men that she dated, and in it, she makes a joke saying, "You never know where the threat is coming from. A
Oh
fly, a
yeah.
legislation, a children's
Oh
book author," and then she goes right back to the story of Tim. And I thought that's a bigger bit. Like that's more.
yeah.
You have something important to say there, and I feel like you threw it away. Um, and then what also bothered me, she went right from that bit. Well, that little throwaway, which I thought could have been a lot more, right back into the bit about Tim, and then almost immediately into Tall Tim's white privilege, which I thought that's something also that I think is a great premise, but was never fully formed out. The fact that Tall Tim is white privilege, as a black trans woman, she can only imagine what that bliss would be like. There's something I think great in there
Yep.
that again was left on the table.
Yeah, and that's I'm my concern is that this will be a running theme through all 6 of these specials, which will be super entertaining for people that want to watch this. But that is the same. I had the same feeling. I'm like, there's so many great things here, and we're just stepping away from them too early. There's so many scenarios you could put yourself in. Like, as a black trans woman, imagine if I had this privilege, I would do X, Y, Z. I would do the following.
Right.
I would walk around, and there's such a lesson to be taught in that as well. I know it's a lesson for me too. There's things that I get to forget all the time. I'm allowed to forget things all the time
Right.
because of who I am. And when she brought that fly up and then into legislation, which was hysterical, then into the children's book author, which heightened it, like all those things for me were like, boom, fuck, yes, this is important message. Also a funny joke. But then stepping away from the premise, like you said, was like a great opportunity to really make some impactful comedy.
Yes, I was like, "Ooh, she's going to say something," and then I was like, "Oh, that was it. That was what you." Okay, well, I felt like there could have, and that's maybe me asking too much, but I don't think it is. I
Yeah,
think
same. And I do want to acknowledge the fact that I'm saying, well, here you had an opportunity to enlighten me some more, as if it's her job
right.
to enlighten me. But it's
Teach
like
me. And then we got on to something else. She
we
got
sure
on to
did, Jeff.
trans people have issues, access to health care, fatal attacks, and sports bans. And I was like, oh shit, we're talking about real stuff now.
Yep.
And then we weren't, because she kind of talked about the sports ban. And I did enjoy the joke saying, before hormones, I would walk to the fridge. Now I couldn't be bothered, or something. It was in that
Yeah.
vein.
Now I lay in bed. Yeah, I thought that was great. I think that point is great. Where it's like we're taking hormones, we're not taking superhuman. I'm not an X-Man. I'm not
Right.
becoming some super athlete.
Here's the bathroom scene. So the bathroom scene, she's talking about, which I actually really liked this concept, and I wanted to learn more about your first hormone shot, your chosen family, welcome to the sisterhood. I
Yeah.
liked that idea, and I liked the idea of bathroom bans, and that's where this first happened, and that kind of meshing together. I really enjoyed that. Would she say she had dinner and shots, and the shot was in her butt? That's cute.
Yeah, that's great.
But and then she did her big act out, right, with trying to get it in and so on. And what bothered me about that was I stopped the video again to see where we were at in the set, in the show, because it felt like, and I don't want to blame the director here, because as we said, the director has directed a lot of comedy specials, but it felt like, oh, top of the third act, let's do a big act out. Because this was about the time in Darian's set that she did the wrestling act out. And now
it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
So it's just something to pay attention to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the next one, we're going to pay attention now to that third act. Are they going to do a big act? It is, and that may just be a crutch for people that haven't done comedy a lot. Like, hey, this is how we're going to structure it, just so we know. Boom, 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 boom. Which isn't bad. It's just something that I noticed, and I'll pay attention to.
Please do. Always pay attention to it. I'm gonna be on the lookout for that now as well. Because it doesn't. These do have the feeling of being like sister acts, for lack of a shittier pun. You know what I mean? Like it's like I would not be surprised at all to find out that they're just all going to be the same at this point, which would be a fucking.
They're a bit
bummer.
bookending. Yeah, they're a bit.
Before we move on to the next section, I would be remiss if I didn't add what I meant to say at the top, which was I've never seen a bigger fucking straw in my life. That is the longest straw in a drink that I have ever seen. I don't know the logic behind it. I don't know the thought I mean, the straw is twice as tall as the glass. So if there's a reason for it, I'd love for somebody to explain it to me. But you were going somewhere, Jeff, and I'm sorry for derailing you. But that was weighing on me. No.
There is a reason, though. I don't know if you probably didn't read this, but before she started taking hormones, she used to be able to lift a cup all the way up to her mouth. But now that she's on hormones, it's just she doesn't have the energy anymore.
Right?
So
because she's not a super athlete. She can only fair enough.
So
see now
So I mean,
that's a Peppermint. If you keep doing stand up, that's a good bit. Like for example, because I would be if I was in the crowd, I would be fixated on the length of that straw, as obviously I already am. And if she were to reference that as a callback after doing the bit about hormones not making you stronger and just getting your hand up to here.
This is what I can do now.
God damn it! Every time I shit on your I shit on you as a comedian, you say something funny, and it's very disappointing to me.
And then, well, that's life.
Life's not fair.
And then she goes and talks about RuPaul's Drag Race, which was exciting for every RuPaul Drag Race fan. We're gonna get the inside edition.
Got super excited. I was like, finally, yes.
The story was cute. That's all I had. Sorry, that's all I had.
I have said what I've said about this special, and I stand by it. Right. I don't think that it's a great piece of comedy. The only thing that I was truly disappointed with and just was like, oh, what the fuck was that, was this story. You could tell me if I'm wrong, but the way that I interpreted this story is that she waited for a while to be picked up. Mm-hmm. The person that picked her up, that was supposed to pick her up, was given the wrong head count, and Peppermint got left behind. And then Peppermint had her fired.
I mean, jokingly at the end, yes, that was the punchline.
I think, that's a shitty punchline. She is so likable throughout.
Yes.
She is so likable throughout this whole thing. And like her personality alone pushes through subpar material. And for what is essentially Her closing bit. Her closing bit is, I got somebody fired because somebody else made a mistake. Not that even the person that made the mistake should have been fired. But I was like, ugh. That's the last thing you're going to leave me with? Is that you got somebody fired? That was.
I know. I think it was more interesting.
My mind was blown, dude. My mind was blown. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
I mean, the other side of that story is she wasn't memorable in the first day that nobody noticed her missing. That's the other side of that story. And that being said, she did come in second place. So, but
yeah,
you'd think somebody would be like, where'd Peppermint go? She has a unique name.
Yes, and she's also in the cast.
Yes.
You would think somebody would notice because she was in the cast. Like, and I said the same thing. I said the same thing about. I'm sorry. I said the same thing about Darian. Like, these queens should be telling the story of their time on Drag Race, at least one anecdote, and both of their anecdotes were shit. Peppermint's was, I got somebody fired because I was inconvenienced, and Darian's was like, I jerked off a lot in the room or whatever. I slipped notes on it. It's like, come on, you can't say something about how, Sasha Velour was mean to me one day or whatever. Like, whatever the case may be. Like, I want to hear. Imagine being able to hear Peppermint's reaction to what happened in a lip sync, or what, you know what I mean? Like, some moment some iconic moment from her season where it's like, and then I look over and this is happening and I'm like, well, I think I just lost RuPaul's Drag Race.
Well, they also can't ever bad mouth the show because
they don't
then
need
there
to.
will be Willem.
It's just their experience. Yeah, I'm not saying bad mouth the show, but like for example, like, if I was writing for Shea Coulee, which nobody would ever ask me to do, so go fuck yourself, don't bother putting that in the comments. But if I were to ask for writing for Shea Coulee, imagine Shea Coulee.
You think
saying,
people comment?
Well, they don't, but still, I'm preemptively neurotic. But imagine Shea Coulee telling its story and saying, I'm in the semifinals of RuPaul's Drag Race. This is the moment that I've been waiting for. I'm killing it. I'm living my fantasy on stage. And I look over and Sasha pulls her wig off and roses come falling off. And I think to myself, I just lost RuPaul's Drag Race. Now, that's not a great joke, but that's the story to tell. That story that I know about. A story that I have some connection to. Not, I waited for a while, then I got somebody fired.
Was most important about this special and that anecdote that she told was that she cleansed our palate right afterwards with the rap.
I am a hip-hop fan. One of the first tapes I ever bought was Takes a Nation a Million to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy. I think I was 14 years old. I've loved hip-hop and rap.
Oh, wait.
All for a freestyle.
I'm going to connect with you because almost same thing. When I first bought my first boombox, my first CD I ever got was Simpsons Sing the Blues because Do the Bartman was on there, and so we've both been fans of hip hop.
Son of a bitch
from childhood.
You asshole. For one brief second,
also,
I was like,
100% true. By the way.
Look, for I want to talk about that for the next hour of my life. But I really have to say that was enjoyable because there's a moment where I was like, Jeff and I are going to connect again on another level because there are moments, annoyingly so, where I'm like, fuck, man, I really like Jeff as a human being, and then I talk to him for a while. But there's always something new where I'm like, shit, Jeff's done it again, and then you just fucking you took that from me, Jeff. So yeah. So we opened the special with a song.
The rap.
And now we're going to close the special with a freestyle rap. So she asked the crowd to come up with 3 words. And do you remember what those 3 words were, Jeff?
End the show.
That's what they should have been. That's what they should have been.
That's what they should have been. I mean, collectively, as a crowd.
Like, I wasn't crazy about the special anyways, if you couldn't fucking tell. But then to end on the I'm getting somebody fired, my ending joke is I'm getting somebody fired, and then my final bit is a freestyle rap that is not really a freestyle rap. Yeah. Not in any sense that I understand freestyle rap to be.
No. I've watched way too much Harry Mack on TikTok.
Ah, yes! I was just about to say, like, that's amazing freestyle rap. If you
Yeah.
could do what Harry Mack does.
And if anybody's seen that, then this was I don't even know what to tell you. I don't know what this was. But here's what I will say about it. Again, she was doing it like she had nothing to lose.
Yes.
And she was having fun.
Yes. She had a great time. She was selling the shit out of it. It just, the end product wasn't great. And I believe this reinforces my theory that they're only taping one show at a time. Because if you had two shows, there's no way that's the one. There's no way that that's the final rap that you chose. This is the level of it, right? Like, oh, give me a word. All right, the word's happy. Okay, the word's happy. I left the house today and the weather was crappy, but I didn't care because I was happy. That was the level of the freestyle rap that happened. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, it was such a bummer, dude.
It was amazing. So what do you, out of 10, you gave Darien Special 3 out of 10, if I remember correctly. What do you rank this one?
Oh, man. I don't want to give it the same because I give it a 2. I enjoyed this more than Darien Special. I like this more than Darien Special. This was more enjoyable to watch because she was more enjoyable to watch because she was having more fun.
Yeah.
Because she was more into it. But as far as, like, I'm like, there's no jokes. There's no, like, set up punch. There's no jokes. Or very few. I'm not going to say there's none. There's very few.
She had a lot more. I'm going to give her credit. She had a lot more callbacks. She had a through line through the whole thing. She had fun. Mm-hmm. I was overly critical on Darien's when I think back. I have a feeling, though, if I watched Darien's again, I'd be like, I had it right. And I gave Darien a 2 out of 10. I gave Peppermint a 3 out of 10 because she was looser on stage and rolled with things a little bit more.
That's fair.
I will say Darien had more jokes, but
yes,
I don't know.
Darien took chances. At least 3 or 4
callbacks we can think of. Yeah, but again, there was like 3 or 4 callbacks that we can think of in this special that were interestingly to almost funny.
Yeah, but a callback,
so
like, you want a callback to, on a callback, you're calling back to a joke that's funny. She's just doing a callback. And look, by the way, we said this a ton of times during Darien's. We have not said it as much during Peppermint's. We are big fans, and I am a huge Peppermint fan. If Peppermint came to town, I would pay to see her. And if she told me to go fuck myself for 100%. This review, it's deservingly so. The issue is, I thought that we were going to be reviewing like well-crafted, well-worked, tried and true. I thought we were going to be reviewing comedy specials, and that's not what these are. This was this was a challenge. This was a RuPaul Drag Race challenge. That's what these specials are. These are hour-long challenge. By the way, props to Peppermint for only doing an hour, not an hour and 15 or 50 minutes. Actually, the runtime was better for me. But that's what these are.
48 minutes.
Yeah, they're not comedy specials. They are Drag Race challenges. You have 1 week to put together a comedy special. You have 1 week to perform here at this theater. That's what's happening here, man. That's what this is. And if I would have known that, had I known that, going into it with that attitude, I would give Darien's a 7 and I'd give Peppermint's a 6. But if it's just a comedy special, if I'm going to judge it the way I would judge any other stand-up comedian, we're still at a 3 and a 2.
We did. We came into this hoping to rave about because we love these queens. I love Peppermint. And again, best reveal all time. Look it up. It's fantastic. But
good reveal.
We came into these to rave about them, and it's making it very hard to do so. And here's what I'm going to say. Again, I stand where I stand on Peppermint. 3 out of 10. We're getting better, but we're not. I just didn't want to do a 2 out of 10 again. The next one comes out May 2nd, and it is Bibi Sahara Benet. Africa is not a country.
Which is a great title, by the way. Love that title.
I'm gonna read you the synopsis so you can get excited for next week's special. Are you ready?
No. Go ahead.
In her debut stand-up show, pioneering entertainer Bibi Sahara Benet recounts
All true.
immigrating from West Africa to America, which
Cool.
I'm excited about. I love that story. I want to
Absolutely.
hear that.
That's cool.
This is how she's going to do it. Through a series of hysterical sketches, unexpected audience interactions, and razor-sharp social commentary. Settle in for a raucous journey from the motherland to Minnesota. No baggage fees required. Boom! Joke in the synopsis.
Oh man, we might be really fucked on this one. We might be really fucked on this one.
Oh my god.
To be very clear about something, just something personal about me, I love the idea of vaudeville. I love the idea of a variety show. If there was a club in Tampa,
we can tell by
or anywhere
everything about you.
Yeah, absolutely. If there was a club nearby that I could go see a juggler and a comic and a contortionist and somebody, breathing fire, I would go there. I would spend every fucking weekend there. So the idea of we're going to do sketches, we're going to have social commentary, we're going to have audience interactions. I want a performance. I love that. That gets me very excited. It's not easy to do. So instead of doing one thing, like we're going to try to get really good at stand-up, we're going to instead try to do stand-up, audience interactions, and sketches. So we're not going to try to do one thing well. We're going to try to do three things well, and that makes me very nervous. On the flip side of it, maybe it'll be amazing.
Yes.
Because it's like I don't have to write an hour of stand-up because I'm going to do some audience interaction. I'm going to have some sketches. So I'm going to have a lot of different things happening. So it's more of a show. So
that may be the trick on this one. Also, I personally think you can't put in a synopsis unexpected audience interactions and expect them to be unexpected.
Wow, that's a good point. That's a good point, Jeff. God damn it! I'm so sick of good points.
But that comes out next week, May 2nd, which means we will watch it next week. We will get together afterwards and record another one of these for the dozens of people that need to know what we think.
Hey, man, this is how we're starting. We're going to build. In a couple years, people are going to look back and they're going to say, boy, they're not much better than they were when they started. Since 2016, there has been one thing that has consistently brought me joy, that has not disappointed me, and that has given me what I needed through this bullshit of a world that seems to be imploding upon itself with creeping fascism and climate issues and anti-LGBT legislation and all the shit going on. The one thing that has consistently brought me joy is Drag Race and the drag performers.
Okay.
And here I am shitting on them. And here I am shitting on them for all the joy that they brought me. So I don't know what's going on, but this is what's happening. This is how we're spending our time.
We're living in the upside down and just trying to hold on. All right.
That's it, brother.
Looking forward to the next one. I have high hopes.
It's going to be great. It's a variety show. I've heard that there's going to be sketches, witty commentary, and unexpected crowd interactions. And I'm here for it.
Literally, what could go wrong? All right. I can't wait till next week. I hope people learn something from this. I don't know. Leave a comment. Tell us what you learned.
Yes. Tell us what you learned. Also, subscribe if you want to. That'd be dynamite. Some of you already have.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. Tell your friends.
Yeah. Or don't. Or keep this as a hidden shame. And then when we get good at this, then tell your friends. That would be good too.
We're not the Babadook.